All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. With so much uncertainty and unbalanced in the world of college football at the moment, in my opinion, the NCAA has clearly dropped the ball and they have zero intention whatsoever of picking it up. I say this because you think about things right now. We've got the transfer portal, the NILs, and conference realignment. And all of these three things, as far as I'm concerned, straight up and down, are out of control right now. Questions about the current 12-team college football playoff format and soon to be a 14-team college football playoff format. And the questions about it have basically resulted in a lot of conference commissioners simply lobbying against one another. But what if, and just what if, there was finally some leadership to get ahead of things in college football? I say this because more than ever, these young men need to be treated like they're professional athletes. And I'm saying this because there's so much money floating around the sport right now. All right. And with nobody clearly at the controls at the NCAA level, it is time for college football to be just like the pros. And in my opinion, have themselves a commissioner to oversee the sport. Now, more regulations are needed for the transfer portal, in my opinion. Okay, I'm all for it, but and I'm all for these young men having the opportunity to move on if they are not happy with where they're at currently. But in my opinion, things have gotten a little bit out of control. Some of these kids are transferring every single year. Okay, what I do think should happen, I think that you should have a one time, you know what? It's not working out for me here. I'm taking my ball and going someplace else moment if you want to transfer. I think additional transfers should occur if you have a scenario where a player, he's far away from home, he's far enough away from home, and a parent gets sick or something like that. Or what if the coach that recruited the player to that school, and it does not necessarily have to be a head coach, sometimes it's a position coach. Then if he leaves or he gets fired, then you should have the opportunity to go play someplace else. Okay, or if even if the head coach leaves, because the before the transfer portal, we would see so often some of these kids would be recruited to schools. The head coach would get fired, or the head coach would get another job. He has that opportunity to leave, and then the kid is stuck at that school. And if they transfer, they've got to sit out a year. The head coach who got himself a new job does not have to do that. So I think that is something that can be looked at for the transfer portal. Another thing for me, why is the transfer portal beginning when the season has not ended for everyone? You got a scenario where some of these kids, most notably the backup quarterback from Penn State this past season, Bo Prabula, he left the team just prior to the start of the college football playoff because he was looking for a starting gig for next year. And the thing is, if you watch Penn State on offense this season, he was a part of what they did. They had a lot of packages for him, both as a runner and as a thrower. And of course, we saw packages for both him and starting quarterback Drew Aller at the same time. But nonetheless, I think if you're going to have this transfer portal, it needs to be on the same page with everybody. Wait till the playoff is over. Just like it is in the NCAA tournament. I talk about this because everybody's not at the same advantage because the transfer portal is taking place and some of these kids or in some of these schools are still out there hooping. Okay. So you got schools reaching out to kids who are still playing at other schools. They're offering them money. And I really do think things are out of control. If you're going to have the NILs, and I think it's coming, okay, got to have these kids sign contracts because it's one of those where they're looking for the biggest payout on a year to year basis. That is going to, like, again, if you're going to treat it like the pros, which basically what it is now, there has to be more things in writing to bond everyone together. But with all of that said, I do truly feel that there is one guy that some of the college football coaches right now are lobbying for, and it's former Alabama head coach Nick Saban. Now, the 73-year-old Saban shocked many people when he left after last season, after a phenomenal 17-year run at the University of Alabama that included 6 national championships and 9 SEC titles. Trying to navigate through this new world of the NILs and the transfer portal was just too much for Saban, and it was a tipping point, and it was a perfect time for him to exit stage right. But, he's a guy that has the respect of all of the coaches, or most of the coaches for that part, excuse me, going around college football. But is he someone hypothetically that could get all of the power brokers around college football to be on the same page and behave? You think about it and you look at college football. It's as popular as it ever has been right now. But the growing gap in the sport between the haves and the have-nots. And of course, the question is, how and will the group of five be able to survive with that? Because financially, they can't compete with the big boys. Okay, that's something that definitely and desperately needs to be looked at in the future. Also, how should seeding for the playoff work? And we might see some tweaks for the 2025 season, but I'm one of those people. I'm not in favor of giving people a first round bye. Granted, I know that all of the teams that had first round buys this year lost. They were one and done. But nonetheless, I'm not a fan of giving teams first round buys just due to the fact that they won their conference, because all conferences are not created the same. We've seen it in the NCAA tournament for basketball, where guess what? We've seen number one seeds that, not necessarily won their conference tournament or won their conference, but because you have to look at the strength of that league. And of course, I've talked about this leading up to the national championship game. And of course, both Ohio State and Notre Dame, who were in that game, and of course, it was won by Ohio State. Both of those teams were seated too low. And I said that from a long time ago. Okay. So I think that's something that should change. Would a commissioner have enough stroke to regulate things such as conference realignment? I don't think so, because it's one of those where conference realignment is basically in place, and it's gotten out of control like it has, due to the fact that everybody's not on the same page financially. And you have a lot of schools that are chasing bigger dollars, and they're going to go wherever they can get themselves a bigger paycheck. I've talked about it before. The only way to kind of do away with conference realignment, uh, to me, I feel like there needs to be revenue sharing. But good luck getting that across, and good luck getting everybody at all of these schools, the big power brokers, on the same page, in regards to that. Now, college football is in real need of a boss, okay? But it would be under the category of being a thankless job. All right. Because you think about it, in the pros, we have commissioners for all of the major sports leagues, but you got a scenario where you've got about 30 some odd owners that you have to answer to in said leagues. Okay. And usually everybody, or most of the people, are on the same page trying to do what is best for business. I don't see that happening in college football, because things that the schools are not run by the school presidents. They're not run by the ADs. They're run by the boosters, and they are run by the powerful alumni. Okay. And do I think college football needs revenue sharing? Absolutely. Okay. But good luck, just as an example, getting somebody at a Texas or an Oklahoma or an Alabama who's giving money to sit up there and say, hey, you know what? We need to help out somebody like UTEP. We need to help out somebody like East Carolina to give them a chance. They can care less about how things float at those schools. So this is what I talk about. Good luck getting everybody on the same page. You know, the conference commissioners, okay, and I've talked about them, lobbying against one another. These are the same people that originally agreed to the BCS, the 14 playoff, now the 12-team playoff, and then each time it happens, most of them only turn around to complain about the way that things are played out. Like I can't harp on this enough, but college football is desperately in need of revenue sharing in order to save this growing financial gap. And if you don't save it, it's going to get to the point of no return. So what's going to happen, especially with the group of five, it's like they're not on the same level as far as being able to compete. They only have, maybe a tenth or a 15th of what the big boys, have to go out there and throw at players via the NIL. So it's one of those where if you wanted to make it more competitive, maybe you have a flat number that everybody is allowed to spend upon. We got to wait and see. But again, I simply don't see everybody being on the same page, commissioner or not, as far as going out there and making that happen. So for me, it's a nice idea for college football to have a commissioner. I know, people have thrown around Nick Saban, and I think it's great, but I just simply do not see everybody being on the same page. And the reason why is this: if everybody was on the same page and everybody was doing what's best for everybody else at their respective table, we would still have an original Pac 12. We would still have an original Big 12. We would still have possibly even the Southwest Conference or the Big East as far as football. The bottom line is these school presidents, these school ADs, especially the school presidents, they're going to look and see wherever they can go to get the top dollar. And somebody at Syracuse might of somebody at West Virginia. Somebody at USC really might not care about the well-being of somebody at Arizona State. Okay. And I'm not here to knock it. Okay. I'm just saying it's one of those where it is extremely difficult to get all of those people on the same page. Sometimes you can't even get a room of 10 or 12 conference school presidents rather to be on the same page for a television deal. So how in the world do you think you're going to get one person to get more than 100 school presidents and ads on the same page as far as revenue sharing and as far as other things that are important and vital to the sport? Like I said, a commissioner sounds nice, but it would be a thankless and hopeless job. It's one of those things. College football is truly in need of better leadership. The NCAA, I mean, we've completely given up uh, on the leadership factor or lack thereof from that organization. But the bottom line is everybody's chasing the money. Okay, everybody's doesn't have the same tools to keep up with one another to chase said money and get the top players to come to their respective schools, facilities, you name it, everything, the whole shebang. But nonetheless, something's got to give in college football. Will it happen? I'm not holding my breath on it. But at the end of the day, we never say never. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.